All right. Hello. Good afternoon. Good evening, and depending where you are, good morning. Welcome to PhilAm Innovators' first ever virtual event, simulcast live in both YouTube and Facebook Live. Uh, Before we begin, I'd like to invite everyone to our virtual event, a virtual happy hour after this event. The link to the meeting is in the details of the comment line. We will put. All right. Also, the happy hour live is a great time to sort of network, have a good chance to talk to our founders, and bring your favorite drinks. We really appreciate that if you guys can participate with us and bring your drinks and have a talk shop with us. Um, for our viewers that are not familiar with PhilAm Innovators, we are a new organization that primarily focus on Filipino American entrepreneurs. We were founded late 2019 by Julius Alejandro, Ramel Romero, and your host, me, Eugene Narciso. Uh, we basically quickly realized that the startup ecosystem is a thriving economy, and it's been a very robust um, framework, um, even in this pandemic, in this uncertain times. Um, but we realized that there's not a lot of Filipino American representation, and so we quickly organized and promote, and we wanted to promote our community and to be more assertive and be entrepreneur. So hopefully today we'll be able to inspire everyone that are viewing us to take a leap and hopefully join us in the startup ecosystem. Onto the talk or onto the event. Of course, we're going to talk about COVID-19, the pandemic, right? Who else? Who isn't? Today, we're going to talk to at least three startup founders, and we're going to discuss how that is affecting their company and what they're doing to pivot quickly. With that in mind, I'd like to pass the introduction to Julius. Julius.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm pretty sure you hear those super buzzwords: unprecedented time. We never seen this before. This is just a reality. But one thing about entrepreneurship and startups, there's resiliency, and we found two guest panelists with Haley and Jamar, including our own, who are very resilient, especially during this interesting times, one could say. And how are they navigating, especially being early stage founders and companies? So we want to highlight them before we start and give them a little background of who they are and their companies. Yeah, so can we take it? Let's say, me, my name, Mo. Haley, you want to start first, please?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So my name is Haley Brooks. I'm one of the co-founders of Acai, a event marketing startup. So we have actually been putting together event software to help facilitate the marketing of various events, monthly events as well as conferences. We've been doing that since last year, and recently now we are now throwing virtual networking events because of everything with that has happened with the pandemic. So I also volunteer. I know Julius, they're volunteering with Startup San Diego, another entrepreneurial support resource for the startup community here in San Diego.
Nice. I think he's muted. I'll just go. Okay, perfect. I'm Jamar Williams, CEO and co-founder of Promo Drone. We're the world's leader in aerial drone banner promotional advertising. So what we do is something a little different. We use drones at outdoor events. We fly promotional banners to get more attention, get more excitement, get more engagement to brands at large outdoor events. So obviously with the pandemic, this has caused some disruption in what we had planned, but that doesn't mean that good things still can't come out of it. So we've been around for a few years now. We just graduated from the Connect All at the Jacobs Center. We still have residents there, so they've been very supportive. We're members of San Diego Sports Innovators up in North County, so that's great. Do a lot with them and get support from the Brink as well here in San Diego. So got some good mentors, some good support on our side. We're doing some really cool things, and yeah, it's different right now, but I think we'll be okay. And looking forward to chatting more about it. And thanks for having me to be a part of the panel.
Hello.
My name is Ramel Romero. I'm the co-founder of Dip Social. Dip Social is a mobile application that's available on iOS and Google Play. We published about 2 years ago. We just got out of beta last summer. What Dip Social is, it's a location-based chat room app. So think of us kind of like Yelp, but instead of reviews, we have a chat room. So definitely with this whole COVID thing, we're definitely feeling the effects of it, just like how Yelp's feeling the effects of it. But we are pivoting, and that's something we could talk about further on in the call. So, yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, so viewers, so these are our what's called founders and their companies, and we're gonna get to it. So we have three main questions, and then it'll be discussions among themselves. And for me, as what's called as moderator, I'll be pulling out themes that I'm finding. But also for viewers, please, if you have any questions on Twitter, please direct message me at JULS_Alejandro, ALEJANDRO. If you have any questions for any of the founders, especially during this sessions. So with that, let's start with our first questions. Again, open discussion is, what was your traction like before the pandemic, and especially leading up to the orders, the pandemic? How has it affected your company, the traction, and especially the immediate moment when things went a little haywire?
Yeah, I'll kick it off if that's cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, so for us, this was 2020 is kind of a breakout year for us. That was the goal. We had pretty much last year was the introduction of our MVP, really starting to pick up some traction, getting some PR. So we were really ready to hit the ground in terms of client onboarding, and we had a lot in our pipeline. We had a deal with South Korea we were working on for some drone advertising hardware. For them, that deal's completely stalled. You're talking over $19,000 in potential revenue from one client for drone hardware in order to take our brand to another country, and because of it, it's pretty much not happening. So what we've done is started to shift our focuses a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about that later with the big P word, pivot, later. But so it definitely had a big hit on it, especially since our clients are directly outdoor event based. So with that being shut down, we really had to kind of figure out other applications for how we can be used. Definitely disrupted. I would say pretty much grounded all to a halt. We do have some pre-existing contracts that are already kind of prepaid. So once everything opens up, then we will fulfill those contracts. But it's getting, it's the waiting game at this point. So.
It definitely hit November, December last year, and I developed a marketing team in the Philippines. And from November all the way to February, we established a lot of partnership, a lot of restaurants in the Philippines. So my big focus was the Philippines, was Asia, because chat rooms were more prevalent over there. But we grew some installs, we grew a following, and we had some momentum going. But then we were hit with this pandemic, and the difficulties we're dealing with, especially overseas, is that the lockdown is different compared to it as over here. People in other countries are experiencing quarantine differently. I'll be honest, in America, we're a little lucky on what we could do compared to other countries. But since mine is establishment based, it is difficult to market, especially not only the marketing end of my company, but also my team. I do have developers overseas, and also with them, some of my engineers in India, they can't even leave their house. They need a certain path to go to the next district. So in terms of development and also updating my application, especially on iOS, that we kind of hit a brick wall on that also. But just like the word pivot, we did have to think about what we could do and what we could do to move forward, because we were given such a great opportunity, especially having the ability to even have a startup, especially not having a technical background. and nothing's gonna come up. Nothing's gonna come like of it if you don't do nothing about it. So that's why you got to pivot, and that's why you got to keep moving forward, regardless of what's happening around the world. So.
Yeah, definitely. I was just talking to another startup founder earlier today, actually, and she was sharing a similar sentiment. We were kind of talking about how almost like startup founders, it's in our DNA to just, okay, this new thing has happened. Like, obviously, we're not, training for a pandemic necessarily, but we're very used to this concept of like things have shifted, and now we're going to have to shift with it and, trim our sails differently, execute the pivot. So, yeah, I would echo the similar sentiment. For our startup, we were basically doing kind of a sort of closed beta of this marketing collateral generator that we created to help event organizations market their, primarily like larger conferences, market their events effectively, sort of leveraging the speakers that are coming to their events and using their networks to get more tickets sold and things like that. And so we had this collateral generator, and we had a few deals in our pipeline that were kind of some of those larger deals. We were kind of going more of an enterprise sales approach. And so those deals, of course, with everything with COVID, kind of just evaporated or stalled or whatever you want to call it. And we were kind of looking around like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen now? Because especially, as a startup that, we were mostly pre-revenue, that makes it even more challenging. We have, a certain amount of runway and kind of figuring out what to do when things have shifted that much and you kind of have these, sales you're hoping to count on, kind of stalling overnight. It was a sudden change.
Absolutely.
So definitely. So, so initially when this, when the shelter-in-place order came in, basically stay where your residency are. And I know for startups, it's more natural in regards to like in the garage or being remote. How does that affect that team dynamic? Now everyone has to be shelter in place. There's no official meetings. So how is you and your founding team's interaction in the initial phase of the pandemic?
Yeah, for us, it's been a little bit of a challenge just because when you're kind of shut down, being a startup, especially so early stage, you don't have the financial flexibilities to still to do things like some of the big guys would do. So in addition to being sheltered at home, our team members still have to worry about their own livelihood in addition to all this stuff. So they're dealing not only with how are we going to form and function and pivot as a company, but how are they going to get income as a human being, right? So I think first and foremost, what we try to do is tackle the human side of it first, right? Before the company, let's talk the human side. Let's make sure everybody's going to be okay. Let's take a deep breath. And let's figure out what it's going to take for you to be comfortable in life. Because if you can't focus and you're worried about, where your next paycheck's coming from, or if you're going to make it for groceries, you can't worry about building a company. That kind of comes second. So what we did was kind of a reality check. Let's see what, after you are focusing on your human side, what's left. Okay, now let's figure out what we can use of that to continue to push the company forward. These are uncertain times. Trying to do things like we used to do them is just kind of not going to work. So we have to set different expectations, different ways to navigate. So we have weekly calls. It's all virtual, obviously, now. And we keep it brief. We're close to, before we would do, a few hours a week, face-to-face meetings and really drill in. Now it's checkups on stuff. It's more high-level milestones versus these really low-level, deep, complicated milestones. What can we do this week just to keep the momentum going, but still maintaining our sanity as we deal with this whole new situation? So it's a human balancing act along with that and expectations from, additional founders. So it's a little sensitive spot, but we make the best out of it. And I think just remembering that the human part of it comes first, and remembering that it's challenging for everybody, not just you as a business owner, but the people that work with you. And I think it kind of takes a little bit of that edge off. So that's what we've experienced, just kind of dealing with it on a personal side first.
I think with us, when we started off with the development of the application, everything was done remotely. So me and my co-founders, we did everything from our homes. Also, our developers who are overseas. So we're kind of used to this. We're kind of used to this. Not having a face-to-face kind of meeting. Everything's done through communication, whether it be WhatsApp or video calls. So so since we're adapting to this quarantine wasn't difficult. It was more of it was more of a getting things tested like hardware on iOS phones and stuff like that. But I think with us, especially being the head of a company, it's keeping everybody motivated. Not having the quarantine, this pandemic, get to your team, especially with the decrease in usage of your application. So I think if I don't move forward and motivate my team won't be motivated to keep working. Because the last thing we want is people to kind of, they're already kind of, depressed or somewhat bothered by what's going on in the world. We don't want that to company also. We all did our time trying to grow this application and get it developed. And I believe it's my part, being the head of this company, to keep the train moving. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's even though this pandemic is going on, I'm not going to let it stop us. So I think being ahead of a company, it's for right now, it's about leadership and momentum and motivation. So,
agreed.
Yeah. Definitely. We're a small team still. It's just myself and my other two co-founders. So the human side of this, we've been sort of, leaning on each other a lot. It's been kind of a nice support system, to be honest, kind of navigating through all of this, being able to talk through things and everything. But kind of like you were saying, Ramel, my team has been virtual, even though we're all in San Diego, we don't all work together every day anyways. So this hasn't been too much of a transition. But it has, as far as what we've been working on and that big, pivot question, that has been kind of shaping our conversations. And I'd say also it's just kind of being, even amongst the three of us, just being more understanding, getting back to kind of that person side of things, the human side of it. It's that, some days I'm just feeling really grumpy and I don't want to be working, and and kind of having that space to do that. I think that's, one of the benefits of having a startup in the first place, is you do have a little bit more of that flexibility. And I think that one of these times like these, I guess, a pandemic is a nice time to, I think, sort of really lean on that flexibility and lean into it. When you do need to just take some time away, or sometimes I'll just go into my living room and just do a little bit of yoga, and it's okay, So I think giving yourself more of that latitude to make sure that you're taking that time, and make sure that your co-founders, your other team members, know that it's okay to take that time. We're all dealing with this sort of unprecedented thing, and so I think, remembering that human side of it, commiserating in that together, and helping each other through has been important.
Yeah. And not losing focus too, right? At the same time, you can do all that stuff and still be focused on goals and setting up what's next. We're all adjusting and adapting and trying to be, this roller coaster kind of happening right now. Every day's different. Every week's different. Depending on what news channel you subscribe to is a different way to do things. So trying to really have some structure definitively in this uncertainty is going to be kind of a challenge. So having that flexibility is good. You drive yourself insane. Otherwise, I think.
Yeah.
So sorry about.
I think what we're all trying to do, we're trying to grab a sense of normalcy, even though it's not normal right now. We want our companies to, be normal, and we like to pretend that everything's normal, but it's really not. But it's it's somewhat needed for kind of mental strength and mental security. Like I said, it's even with me, if I could definitely lose motivation if things aren't going well. But that's just I'm trying not to let it get to me. You see what I mean? So maybe if you like what Jamar said, you have to have structure. You have to I guess with that structure, you and setting goals, it makes things somewhat kind of normal away. Mm-hmm. Doing something is better than doing nothing.
Absolutely.
Even if that's something very little, it won't even do anything, but it bothers you. So.
Yep, absolutely.
So with so self-care, definitely is really important, mental health, but at the same time, there's this notion of entrepreneurialism, especially in startup, this romanticism, you're an entrepreneur, you have to be grinding every day. Do you feel like, what's your advice to entrepreneurs out there, especially early stage, of the expectation, like, no, every day you have to, have goal setting. You can't just like take care of yourself. You need to be grinding every day, especially a pandemic. There's that notion of that. But what's your advice for those who feel like they have to always be doing something and just can't, like what you just gave advice, rest?
I say that's a myth, right? Like the whole like eat, never sleep, hustle 24/7 whole thing. Like you have to do what works for you, right? Now, like you can line up 5 different billionaires and ask them how they got there. They all have a different method and energy they use to get there, right? It's about the experiences and these opportunities that come, and are you ready for them? And you know how to take advantage of them. And you can't sit on your thumbs and wait for them. You have to go out there and be actionable. But at the same time, you can't become a CEO that you're not. I can't beat Bill Gates. I don't think like he does. I think like I do. Now, we may have a lot of similarities in our foundations and the way we go about things, but you have to trust what works for you. Now, ultimately, no matter what path you take, it takes hard work. It takes some discipline, but that discipline may look different to everyone. But at the end of the day, you have to know where you're going. I'm a firm believer that you have to have the vision no matter what you're going to do. You have to have vision. You have to have some direction, some source of how you're going to get there, right? So that maybe, and then some people call them goals, some people, are delivered or not, but that's a personal choice. I think I would say trust yourself, be honest to yourself, and work hard. Whatever that personality style is that works for you, just like jump into it, like eat it up. Some CEOs are very outgoing, and that's what makes them very successful. Some are just analytical, and that's what does it. There's no one way to skin a cat, in my opinion, but it always will come back to some sort of hard work, some sort of adversity you're going to have to go through despite all that, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's great to know that you can do it, trusting yourself, you can do it, you can get it done, but, no one's, I'm not that guy that's going to tell you, like, work 50 hours a day and, 300 hours a week, the impossible, to become this glorified. Do what you need to do to get you where you want to be in life and be accountable for those actions. That's it. That's my kind of advice in that situation.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with Jamar. But in a sense, being an entrepreneur, being a head of a company and owning a startup, dude, honestly, like I don't think we're pursuing everybody nodding their heads. I'm not the only one. So, but still, like what Jamar said, I have my way of doing things. I'm sure Haley has her way of doing things, and it's all part of our grind and how we do things. I look at, like I keep saying this, I look at entrepreneurship just like history. There's really no truth behind history, just like entrepreneurship. Just because I get a lot of advice from mentors and coaches or whatever, just because that path worked for you is not going to work for me because I'm me and this is how I do things. And everybody's path to success is different. I don't hear any stories of people having the same path. Unless it's like a pyramid scheme or something like that, right? But yeah, it's just I guess I really don't have advice for that. If I were to give somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur, because really it's really up to them and how they manage their time and how much they want it. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, and I'd also add that you should try and do it like kind of like you were both saying, like as it works best for you. Like I know in my first startup, I had this mentality of like I need to work as many hours as possible, as like humanly possible, and so I had it all worked out where I would like skip breakfast, and then like we were doing company lunches for a while, so I was like I'll get a company lunch, but I'll order more, and then have the other half for dinner, and I had all these life hacks to get as much time for work as possible. But then like I after a while burned out from that. That was just, it was like too much. I wasn't giving myself enough time to like take care of myself to then I believe that if you're not able to like take care of yourself and be good for yourself, then you can't really be good for anyone else or your company or anything else you're trying to put out into the world. So I kind of that was for me personally, that was my experience of like really trying to like nose the grindstone, work after so many years. That just it's kind of startups are kind of a sprint marathon in a way where you're sprinting, but you also need to remember that it's like you kind of need to go get 26.2 miles or whatever. So it's urgent and it's important, and you do need to stay on task and be disciplined and make sure you're getting what you need to get done. But not at the not so far as to like sacrifice your own, you know, personal health or like sanity and all of that. So, yeah.
So the next question, before we, Eugene, can you explain what pivot means for our viewers who are not familiar with the word pivot?
Sure, sure. So I'm glad you asked this question because a lot of people use the term pivot sometimes differently in some places or in some individuals. So a pivot itself really do stay within the company. So let's say if you're company A and you're doing product B, right, or product AB, a pivot is essentially the product itself. When you analyze your market or your target market, and you found out that there is some key feature that they like about your company that sort of like sells more than like the other features, the other 100 features that your company makes. But so essentially you end up like narrowing down or at the same time reacting to what the market is reacting to your product. So in that case, you say, hey, I think I can get a lot more return or yield more return if I am in this market or in this feature. If I focus myself into this feature, so that is a pivot, meaning that you change the definition of your company and your product, but at the same time, you're not really changing the company altogether. Why I say it that way is because a lot of people, when they say, "Oh, I pivoted," is meaning that they completely dissolve their company and then they move on to another company. Not necessarily pivoted. That's literally meaning you're dissolving, and you went on to another company. So that's the definition.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah. So with that, let's move up in the room. COVID-19 is an external force that forces everything. So with that, the next question is, how has COVID-19 impacted your startups to pivot to this unknown? Because right now there's totally a blank slate.
Yeah, for us, a pivot, we just really focused on what was attainable right now without having to do too many product changes, right? Because we have our platform's designed for a kind of unique purpose, right? And if you don't have the audience there, it's not as useful, so to speak, right? It's designed for a specific type of situation. So what we said was, okay, what other markets could benefit from this specific product utilization? So instead of pivoting where some that have like an app or something, they may say, okay, well, now the app has other features or something like that. We didn't add any more features. We targeted a different demographic. So where we were B2B at our onset and have been focused on event management companies, outdoor event companies, now we're focusing on individuals, with the drive-by, the happy birthdays, the gender reveals, the proposals. That's going to take precedence over even the large-scale gatherings because of the COVID, right? So instead of leaving our hardware on the shelf and waiting to figure out what's going to happen in 9 months with all the sporting events, we said, okay, let's reshape our pricing. What's the lowest we can do it for and still make profit and still make it Attain1 attractive to a different customer base? What's it take for us to still use this moment to demonstrate our ability to pivot? Because that looks good to investors for a multitude of reasons. One, you still drive revenue. You're not letting time go by, and it shows that you can adapt. So what we did is we just refocused our marketing. We're about to roll out campaigns targeted towards individuals. Same drone, same banner platform. Now you have access to it. And when I look at history and historically some of these things that have happened during pandemics, there have been some great companies that have kind of been birthed out of pandemics because of the use cases that they've had to switch for in order to adapt to the new world. So it's like you were good before the pandemic. You may be great after, right, despite the challenges. So we just switched our demographic. We're incorporating B2C focus, and for the next 9 months, probably really focused on that until the world's ready for the outdoor events again. So demographic pivot.
So what we did, pretty much what Dip Social is, it's a chat room at a location, and our focus was real-time communication, at any establishment. So the reason why I came up with Dip Social was I wanted to know before I went to a restaurant, how busy it was or how great the food was, all before I go there. So would it be nice to talk to somebody there. So what Dip Social is, it's pretty much an open shell, and it's an open shell of communication at any establishment. So that's what it is. So the way we decided to pivot was still use that idea of the chat room, but expand it throughout the world. So we are in the process of launching a website called COVID-19 World Chat, and that should be available tomorrow or the following day. Because we believe that communication is important, and what best way to do it through an open chat room. People are experiencing different things throughout the world. Not only for health issues, but also for mental health. The way the way their quarantine and lockdown is. So and there's also a lot of people who are at home by themselves. So we want this COVID-19 World Chat Room to be to be this open shell of communication, so people could talk about their experiences. Because like I said, over here we're a little spoiled on what we could do, but as people across the world, the countries who are experiencing a little differently. So so just imagine if we could all relate in a way to a chat room and just talk to each other anonymously. So that's the way we're pivoting, and we believe that having a chat room could definitely help with research and data. But the thing about our application, it's a free application, but our business model is profiling and information. So the thing about COVID right now is everybody's being tested are people who have or people who, and also tests are limited. So just imagine having a chat room where we could pull off keywords like cough, sore throat, and kind of generate a profile from that. And it could help with data. It could help with data, with cities and states for people who can't get tested, And also it's going to help with mental health, and also, people experiencing depression and so on. And also with financial issues. Just imagine how much information we get from what people are saying within the chat room. And we believe, it's important for, like I said, for information, and also for mental health and of awareness on what's going on throughout the world. Because over here, we're just kind of just thinking about ourselves in some way. When I watch news, I'm just thinking about San Diego and California in the United States. But I'm sure not a lot of us know how the quarantine is for others across the world.
Is this like a launch announcement, man? This is great. Oh man, so you heard it live. You heard it live at Phil Am Innovators. Ramel Romero now have a new pivot.
Oh well, guys, go on the website once it's launched.
That's awesome. That's super exciting. Congratulations. I mean, that's really cool to roll out a new thing. I've been in a similar situation, I guess. We unlike Jamar, we stuck with our same target audience, target market that we've been kind of saturated in for a long time, the event organizing space, and thought about what value we could provide to that community, kind of still sticking within sort of trying to make events more exciting, more fun, better experiences, more people, all those things that we were trying to bring in a B2B sense with our event marketing tool. And so we kind of in the last 8 weeks or so, created a new tool where people can come on and network with each other, because we kind of saw this even with our own community, with startup community in San Diego. Events like this Phil Am Innovators event, this is incredible, and I love that you guys just kind of picked this up and were like, hey, we're gonna start doing digital events. This is so cool. And I think the more and more these events happen, the tools that exist, what we were kind of thinking about being in this event space, we were thinking the tools that exist like Hangouts or Google Hangouts or Zoom or whatever, they're very good for this type of format. Maybe a panel discussion or a webinar. Things of that nature, where you have one or a few people trying to communicate information to a large number of people. But that format isn't as great for the kind of casual networking experience, where you're kind of maybe a couple people talking over here, a couple people talking over there. I know Zoom has breakout rooms, but we kind of were hoping for something that was more getting at that kind of serendipity of when you walk into a networking event, and you're like, oh, hey, there's my friend. I didn't know you were going to be here, Julius. Good to see you, or whatever. And so we wanted something that had a little bit more of that type of experience. We thought that could be really fun for people, especially in this time when we're so isolated. We wanted to find a way to kind of bring communities together and do that with a new technology that we kind of had this idea for. So we spun that up and we started doing these events. And our next event's tomorrow evening, and we've gotten quite a few people to start coming and networking with each other, and we're now going to add additional event types. And what's been exciting is we've been thinking, like, is this a B2B or a B2C kind of opportunity? Are we selling this tool to other event organizations? Are we going directly to consumer and kind of continuing to grow these events? As a startup, it's really nice to have a short iteration cycle, right? And so, like in my first business, we were doing education technology, and the iteration cycle in education is like a year. You kind of do all your sales at the end of the school year, and then you kind of wait the whole year to see how it goes, and then you get to do sales again. And with throwing our own events, it's been neat. In these last 2 weeks, we've had this kind of 2-week cycle of iteration. Kind of, we get some feedback from our users, and then we get to iterate and improve every 2 weeks. And we're starting to spin up more event types now. We have a Women in Technology event the following Thursday. So kind of experimenting, but it's been cool because we've also gotten some inbound interest from various organizations wanting to partner to kind of put on content and then have our networking tool on either side of that, either to kick it off or at the end. So it's been an interesting journey, and I think that like Jamar was kind of saying, I think necessity breeds opportunity. I think that looking at this as COVID is a tragedy, right? We're losing lives, and that's awful, truly awful, right? And didn't wish for this. No one had pandemic on their vision board this year, right? But I think that we can always look for the silver lining, and a silver lining in this environment is that I think a lot of creativity comes out of trying to solve the problems that we're now being faced, and especially as entrepreneurs, I think that's one of the great opportunities that we have, is to be able to try and address these new problems that are arising quickly and efficiently and capital effectively. So I think that that's kind of how I've been trying to see this, is like, this is a great opportunity for us to, in all of our different ways, take all of our different skills and our different products and throw them at this problem that we're all having as a society and work together to find these new solutions.
And what I would like to know, just from the other panelists, is like, how long did it take you to get to that pivot point? Because I know for the first few weeks, we were just confused. We were like, we just have to swallow the pill first to figure out, what's going on. And then it took us a good month to say, okay, this is where we want to go, before we decided to do it. It wasn't an easy decision. It wasn't something that was just like an overnight thing for us. We really had to say, okay, do we want to go that route? And if so, like, how long? Is this an indefinite pivot? If this is something that we're using to kind of just support a temporary, world cycle right now? So that's when we said, let's just go for the lowest hanging fruit, where we, have already kind of built ourselves up for. But I'm curious to see, from you two, what it was like to make that decision.
Yeah,
sorry, I became moderator for a second.
It actually took us about a month.
All good. Organic.
Yeah, that's a good question. It took us about a month also. Don't get me wrong, I'm getting like tons of advice from a lot of people saying you should do this, you should do that. But honestly, this idea just came to me like last week, and it happened on a Tuesday, and we started developing on a Wednesday. So I wanted to figure out a way, how do you get people back into chatting, and how people a way to pivot people to Div Social, using our chat rooms. And I thought of the World Chat, and it's COVID-19 World Chat powered by Div Social. So in a way, this is going to be a short-term type of thing after all this is over, but in a way, hopefully it could direct people to downloading the application afterwards and getting back into the technology of chat rooms once again. So, still using that same concept of real-time communication using my application.
Cool. Yeah, I would say I think that our startup we were a little on the earlier side as far as like thinking about all of this stuff. I actually I live with a couple people that are maybe at higher risk for COVID, and so we kind of locked down a little bit earlier. We were kind of like, I don't know, just to be on the safe side. And so I think in kind of following it closely, being with people that are immunocompromised, it kind of made me scared faster. And so I think I want to say we started working on our tool maybe like 1 or 2 weeks into March. Like it was pretty quick. Like we were kind of like, this is, because we kind of saw it as it's so uncertain in the future. What can we do right now that's something we could roll up really quickly, spin up really quickly to help with a problem that's right now. Because the problem that we were trying to solve is much less relevant, if this gets worse and worse. There was always that thought in our minds, like, well, in the off chance that all this kind of goes away by Easter and everything's fine, we could always go back to what we were doing before. It's not like that. Those negotiations and everything we were working on for that before, like, it's not like those evaporated completely, never to be seen again. Like, they're still there. It's almost like it's just on pause. And so we thought, what can we do in this meantime to perhaps, like Ramel, to like sort of build our brand, our event marketing brand, while also kind of addressing an issue that we're having currently. And if we continue to have this, if we continue to be in this way, who knows how long this is going to happen for, but we thought, like, there's at least this little period of time with an indefinite end that will be kind of addressing a problem that's now. So,
and I think something you said that was pretty cool too just now is like focusing on some of the back end stuff too. Like what we've done when we realized, like, okay, we fly drones and we fly banners and nobody's outside, right? So obviously we can't do that, right? So it's like, okay, what else can we do? So what we did is we're on our second intern right now. So we did all virtual interns. We added 150 additional extra leads to our lead list just through an intern. And we currently have one that specializes in SEO and website optimization. So when the world is going, that's that 1 or 2 second loading time that may cause somebody to go to another website while they're waiting we're cutting all that stuff down, right? And we're using it through programs that are offered for free through San Diego. So now is a good time for us. What we've been doing is, okay, we're grounded, so to speak, a little bit right now. So let's figure out when it's time for us to be in the air, how can we do it more expeditiously, so to speak, right? How can customers find us easier? So we've spent some of that back in time just reconfiguring our foundation a little bit. So when the snow melts, we can play out in the sun again with everybody. So as a metaphor, so to speak.
So with that, in regards to, I know it feels kind of lonely, but I just want to give props to the San Diego startup ecosystem. It's very friendly, very helpful. Did you look for any support throughout, like when you pivot, and even just going through the pandemic? Is there any support organization or services or programs that you sought out, even like the Brink or whatever entity?
Haley, you can go if you want to answer first.
I guess we kind of put our heads down and started building this thing really fast. And so I think we kind of had a network of a few advisors, I guess, just that the connections in the community that we've made over the years being here, that we kind of reached out to, for kind of bouncing ideas off of them, seeing what they thought. But I would say that for the most part, like, because we were kind of kept our same target demographic and pivoted our products, like a lot of our kind of work was not so much on this strategy. We kind of made the decision on the strategy, and then it was a lot of just implementation, just getting the software ready, getting the marketing done, a lot of just doing the actual work. So I wouldn't say that we have necessarily utilized too many of the resources available, because that sort of head down thing. But we're kind of coming up for an air now that we have a functional product that we're not embarrassed of, that's ready for, hopefully,
MVP.
Yes. Put something out you're embarrassed about, right? So now I'm not as embarrassed. That's good. But yeah, I think we did apply for. We hadn't. We weren't part of the Brink actually, but I know one of my co-founders applied a few weeks ago. I think we're now part of the Brink, and we're starting to get that relationship going. So that's I know I've heard just phenomenal things. So. That I think all of this kind of prompted us to get more involved in that way with their mentorship program. But yeah, I think just because of the nature of our particular pivot, we were a little more like, just got to get all of this done, as quick as possible here, and then come up for mentorship and strategy. I think now into the future, yeah.
Yeah, for us, I think it's kind of the same. We still work with the Brink. Our mentor at the Brink, Steve, has been great for us. We've kind of really gotten into our SDSI network a lot more with that crew, and that's been phenomenal. Connect All has just been great too, allowing us to still continue to be part of their workshops. They have weekly and daily workshops where they will bring in salespeople. So I'm using this time just to continue as a continued education tool, kind of still. As a CEO, you never know it all. So even though we've been doing sales, I've done sales for a long time. I just finished a sales workshop, another one, that was every Wednesday night, 6 to 9. And now we're in the middle of a financial modeling workshop. And what this financial modeling workshop is doing is helping us actually put metrics and new mini models to our pivot. So now we can start to have some goals and things that build that we can track financially and have towards some larger goals that support our big goal, right? You know, the goal we had in December of last year prior to this whole thing. So we've really utilized the resources more so in that sense too. And then again, like I said, with the interns, that's just been great. Great time to organize some of those low hanging duties to someone who needs to learn, you know, learning opportunity as well as kind of some expanded support. So yeah, we've taken pretty good advantage, I think, just from some of the resources at this point.
Awesome. And so how things are gonna look like? It's gonna be a new normal. It's once this shelter in place gets lifted, it's not gonna be immediate. It's gonna be a gradual process. And even still, I feel like even people are gonna be a little cautious too, especially with meetings. Especially our governor's plan. Large events are phase 4. Phase 4 is very unforeseen. How is this gonna affect your original target and your pivot? So is there a compromise now, or is there still that goal to go back to the core of, you know, B2B, large scale events for you too?
Yeah, for me, yes, that's the goal, right? You know, like the Comic-Con's going to happen again, Coachella's going to happen again. The world, we're going to have those things again. You know, we're still actively talking to sports teams, professional sports teams, for when the seasons are ready, when the tickets are ready to be sold again. And in our heart of hearts, fundamentally, we would love to be able to go back to that, because that's what excited us originally about formation of the company, being able to be in these large crowds doing things. However, it's not all doom and gloom with the pivot, right? It's like now there's new things to be excited about, new ways to look at how we can use our technology. And who knows, we may grow faster with this, you know, with this, since there's more opportunity. You know, there's more individuals than large events. So, you know, even if we're taking a smaller slice, if we're able to kind of quadruple the volume, it could still be a very profitable opportunity. So it's patience. It's been flexible, and it's for us, knowing that like getting back to large scale events is our ultimate goal. But who knows? We may be at a point when we're ready to do that we continue this same business line, and now we've just got dual business lines that serve two different types of customers, and we've just scaled to that point where we can handle that. So that's what we would like to see at the end of the day. That's our goal.
Yeah, I think I would agree that like the goal is, especially just being in events, the goal is that events happen again, right? Like it would be great to see. I love events. I love in-person events. You know, I think there's an energy where you have a lot of people together. You know, drones in the sky, just very, very exciting. You know, to be with a lot of people. There's something about that I definitely miss, and that I you know, ultimately I hope that we get back to that point in the society. But I think what's challenging, you know, is that it is uncertain. Like that, it's not like, oh, we know that on, you know, September 1st, like everything will be fine or whatever. It's kind of a huge unknown for everyone involved. And so I think how we've dealt with that is often with startups, you know, you make a business plan and it's like 3 years financial projections and everything. And on year 3, like everyone knows, like those are big question marks. Like,
Yeah.
Who knows? Like, I just made up that number. Like, who knows? And so I think that's kind of how I feel about our plan right now. Like we have this plan now where like, you know, in this new normal, this is the value we see we could provide. Like we think potentially there's a market opportunity here, and we want to keep continuing that market opportunity. But, you know, hopefully, and when the world does go back to as it is, then we can be light on our feet, just as we were light on our feet to move in this direction. And kind of like you were saying, Jamar, like if that becomes a great direction for us, then awesome. Now we have two products. Now we have two opportunities, you know, that are both great opportunities. And you know, so the timing of it is almost secondary to making sure that, you know, keeping your eyes laser focused on providing value to a specific target, you know, customer, and making sure you're doing that well. And that's really, regardless of the time, you know, you want to, the goal in having a startup is to be successful. And so, you know, you kind of roll with the punches through these things.
And it's mindset, right? Like a lot of this is teaching us new ways to have newer mindsets about things, right? The old way to do things is not the same way to get it done. So I think entrepreneurs, the thing that makes us kind of want to be entrepreneurs, one, like you were saying, is the flexibility, right? And that flexibility is not just time; it's mind shares. It's having the opportunity to learn new things, to look at adversity as an opportunity. And I think that's what separates entrepreneurs in some degree from kind of, you know, the rest of the world, you know, the non-entrepreneurs, I guess, whatever you want to say. It's that understanding that the challenge, the road is going to be tough, and still wanting and still desiring to do it, like almost compelled to do it, instinctually, you know, to do it despite those things. You know, it's kind of par for the course, like I was saying. So Just stick with it. Be true to yourself. Deal. Figure out your path to glory. Everybody's path to glory looks different. Don't rob yourself of your greatness by not applying all the beauty inside of you to what it is that you want to be a part of. And once you have that vision and you define it, like, just go all in with it. Like, you have nothing to lose. Like, there's like, really, at the end of the day, like, we're all going to be, have our time on this planet. So, all we're going to be doing is looking back at the emotions we experienced during that time. What kind of impacts did we make? What feelings did we get out of the things that we accomplished or didn't accomplish? And that's really what we're working towards. So I keep that as my carrot at the end. That old man that's looking back at his life. I want those stories to be epic. I want, I want those memories to be freaking amazing, right? And I know that just doesn't come to you. You have to go out and get it. You have to create the world you want to exist. So that's my mindset, and that's what I try to instill as a leader in my company. Like, create the world you want to exist through your actions, through your deeds, through your behaviors, your attitude. And I think entrepreneurs embody that. And things like pandemic, it's like getting sucker punched at first, but then you respond, you get your footing, you size up your opponent, and then you start to develop an on the fly strategy to deal with that round, just to get you through the next round. You still got 11 more rounds to go. And each round is a different strategy. But I think when you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of ready to go the distance with the fight, regardless, kind of deal. So just my 2 cents on being an entrepreneur.
I love it.
Yeah. So just viewers, Romel had to leave early. He's actually a frontline worker, so he's helping us. So yeah, so that's why he abruptly left. So yeah. How are you, Eugene? Since you're a founder yourself, any conversation?
Yeah, so we definitely I've been listening to a lot of someone within our network that has a lot of experience of pivoting or like having this unknown times. So we've been fortunate enough, and also we're also in early stages of our company where we're going. We notice that we have to pivot, right? We have to pivot, and just like what Jamal said, that we just needed to get our footing, and that took maybe about a week because we were looking at our numbers. For example, what happened to ours is that our numbers of users dipped, meaning like new users coming in using our platform dipped for the first week during the lockdown, but our usage started to increase. So we were trying to make sense of it all and how that will work, or trying to understand what the users' behaviors are. It turns out just because they're staying a lot longer at home, and we're getting an increase of usage. So we started asking some of our colleagues, some of our within our network, some for CEOs within the tech industry, and they said that it looks like you might have some kind of traction here in terms of usage. Therefore, maybe create a different messaging. So again, we didn't exactly change the product, but we changed the messaging, right? Because now there's more security prone kind of topic that's coming in, or that we're trying to promote, and therefore, so far so good. Again, we're still in the MVP space. We're seeing all these usage, so it's great. In fact, we're roughly from the difference of coverage from the time maybe like 2 months ago versus now, we kind of grow like about an additional 25% in our usage. So it's great, and so far, and we're trying to pivot and make sure that we're doing it in the right way. And again, trying to project what that would look like post-pandemic, right? So I look forward to it, and it's been a great time. But fortunately, one of my actual partner is actually a Brink advisor, Steve. Jamal, your advisor is actually my partner.
That's funny.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's a small world. Steve's awesome.
Yeah, Steve is awesome. So
he knows everybody. Everybody's mentor.
That's great.
That's awesome. So with that, just the closing of our program, if you could just call it, so Jamar and Haley, you want to take just like just one minute advice to founders, early stage founders, and also any promotion of your company?
Sure. My advice would be true to yourself. Recognize, the greatness that you have and opportunity you have as an entrepreneur. So take pride and ownership in that. And with that, know your boundaries, your limits. Be willing to push beyond them, but also don't break yourself. Listen, take advice. Wise man said to me once. He says, if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. Right. So, think about it like that. Take advice, think about it, but every person that gives you advice is not necessarily going to be the right advice for you to take. Just know how to make it be your truth in the world of things that works for you. It's okay to be confused right now. It's okay to have fear of the unknown, but try to practice as much power of now. I'm a very much power of now kind of person. You can't control what's coming next. You can't control the past. You can only really handle your emotional response right now. So try to stay grounded, stay disciplined in that. Be true to yourself. Stay happy and healthy. And take ownership in your business, and you'll be fine at the end of the day, regardless of the pandemics. In terms of us, if you have any private events coming up, a lot of the flybys, drive-bys are popular right now because of social distancing. Please consider banner drones. We're getting hit up right now for being part of birthday celebrations on front lawns and having drones come out like that. So if you have any events coming up, you might want to check this out. Pricing is extra low compared to commercial, especially. And you're gonna be fine, man. Just be strong, out there, and know that you got this. So that's my advice.
Right.
Cool. Yeah. Wow. It's hard to follow all that up. I feel like you have a very wise way of speaking, Jamar. I respect it a lot. I want to listen to you motivational speeches from you every morning before I get to work.
It's the grade. Don't let it fool you. It's a diversion tactic. Trust me. I'm not that smart. Sorry.
Yeah. I guess something that I like to say to myself is that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So you can't really control what's happening, right? No one predicted a pandemic, but you can absolutely control how you respond. And in fact, how you respond is most of what makes your life, one way or another. So I think for entrepreneurship right now, it's a great time to be an entrepreneur. There's a ton of opportunity. Necessity and adversity breeds opportunity, and there's a ton of need right now in a ton of places. So I think it's a great time to start a business, and even though it's a hard time, I think it's also a great time. So I think discipline's really important with entrepreneurship. Doggedly going after your goals, but kind of like you said, Jamar, don't break yourself in that process, because you can't really help anyone if you're not in a sturdy place yourself. So yeah, I think it's a balance of everything. Life's a balance. So. Yeah. As far as for Acai and our events called Meta, we have an event tomorrow. It's for the startup community, networking in the startup community. It's at 5:30. We have an event also next Thursday for women in technology. I'm the unofficial CTO of our company. I'm not really a CTO. I just do the front end development, and there isn't a CTO, so I guess that's me. How it is in startups, but I do care about getting more women involved in computer science, programming, tech. So also open to anyone who is interested in that as well. You don't have to be a woman to attend, obviously, but yeah. So those are the two things we're doing to kind of bring community together during this time. So come on out to those if you want.
Cool. And what's called I feel. And also, Haley and I, we volunteer for Startup San Diego, and we have a series going on with Downtown San Diego Downtown Partnership and Mission Edge every Friday. It'll be a series of workshops. Please go to startupsd.org, and you'll see it. It's a free event. Yeah,
super cool. Friday at 10 a.m., right? All Fridays.
Yep. Awesome. And thank you guys for having us, Julius and Eugene. This is an awesome platform. And thanks for letting our voices kind of shine there.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was super cool. This is my first virtual panel experience, but it's been really neat. I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Good job.
Thank you. And Eugene, you want to close out? And also, you want to promote anything on your end?
Sure. But I just want to give everyone a big shout out. Thank you, everyone, Haley and Jamal, to participating into our panel discussion. And from a advice point of view, yes, I just completely wholeheartedly agree with Jamal and Haley's advice is that stay true. In addition to that, just stay analytical analytical about your company, stay focused, but at the same time, I know that there's a lot of things that are occurring in the world. Just step back a little bit, take a breather, and reassess yourself, and and keep striving to move forward. With that, again, as a founder of my own company, we do have a product called Secure DNS in Android platform. So you can search for us in Google Play Store called Secure DNS. It's a security platform where we prevent any like malware or like phishing attacks to come into your devices. With that, I just want to close this event by saying again, thank you very much for our panelists. Please don't forget we have a virtual happy hour right after this. The link to the Zoom meeting is already posted in the comment lines. Please give us a call or message us through Facebook or YouTube, and we'll try to send the link over to you guys. With that, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks.
Take care, everyone.
Yes.
Bye.